So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, we've obviously had Jamel Herring v Carl Frampton. And listen, Herring did what he had to do. Frampton was outclassed, and Herring really put a beating on him, in that fight. I'm glad that Frampton announced his retirement, because I think his career is probably over. He's had a great career and he's done very well. 2-weight world champion, and I think he beat Leo Santa Cruz, which was an incredible win. I just think when I look at this fight, and I look at a lot of people had this fight, they thought that Frampton could win, but when you're looking back at it now, looking at hindsight, Frampton was a very, very big underdog. I know some people said that he may have even been a favorite. I don't see how. The guy Herring was huge. He had a massive reach. He had massive height advantage. It was really, when you look at it, I don't know how Frampton was going to win this fight. Herring was just so big. It was like a mismatch. I even said I don't think I've seen this kind of size difference in the lower weight categories. This looked huge. The size difference was massive. And a lot of people were saying Herring's not a big puncher and Herring's not going to be able to hurt Frampton. Like, when there's that big a size difference, of course you can hurt somebody. There's a huge size difference there. It was like a boy against a kid in there. It was like a man against a kid. It was a huge size difference in there. And I just don't think this was the right fight for Carl Frampton. I know he was trying to become a 3-weight world champion and trying to create history, but I just think they've kind of just taken a chance. That guy looks like he's at the end as well, Herring, and he's not got the motivation, but really it was a mismatch in terms of size, in terms of even skill-wise. Herring was faster than him. He was bigger. He was the bigger puncher out of the two. I just don't see how he was going to win that fight. And that's not taking anything away from Carl Frampton, because Carl Frampton's a warrior and he's put it all on the line. And I think it's good he's retired, because I think he's on the slide a little. But in terms of his career, he's been a great warrior. Carl Frampton's been somebody that I feel like his career has been overlooked. I don't think he should have been. He should have fought this guy. I just think the guy there's weight classes for a reason. But we'll come on to Carl Frampton's career. I want to talk about the fight. I think Herring just used his size, used his height, and just used his movement. And I think Carl Frampton was gun shy, because I think he felt some of those left hands to the body and to the head. And I think Carl Frampton was a bit gun shy, and I think he knew if he started brawling with this guy, that this guy would hit him with uppercuts and left hands that could be that, basically. And I think after about a couple of rounds, Frampton was getting outboxed and just getting outclassed. And then I think it was round 3 or 4 where he dropped him in the 3rd or 4th round. I think Frampton started becoming more aggressive and started putting up the pressure. And I was actually doing a live stream with Ray, and I took the live stream down. But and I actually said to him that if he starts becoming more aggressive, that will leave more opportunities for Herring to land bigger shots. And that's exactly what happened. Frampton got more aggressive, and Herring became more clinical. And then the knockout was brutal. And when I mean brutal, I mean the uppercut. The referee should have stopped it there. And then the way Carl Frampton went down, I don't think the referee should have allowed Frampton to continue, because for me he took unnecessary punishment. And in the end, the corner threw in the towel, because they knew that he was in no fit state to continue. I think the referee should have taken that out of their hands and stopped the fight, because when a guy goes down like that from an uppercut, you could clearly see his legs weren't there and he was just going to take punishment. Now, Frampton fired back, but nevertheless, I don't think he was in a fit state to continue, and I think the referee should have halted the fight or stopped the fight, because I think Frampton was hurt very bad, especially when it's a fight where the guy's getting beat up and it's quite one-sided. The fight was very one-sided, really. It wasn't like Frampton was having success in the fight. It was a very one-sided fight, and Herring was getting the better of Frampton. So really, personally, I think the fight should have been stopped. And I was quite surprised that the referee allowed the fight to go on after that uppercut. But nevertheless, coming on to Frampton, Frampton, he announced his retirement straight after. I think, it was the right move. I do think that he's been on the slide for a while, and he's not been the same fighter he once was earlier on in his career. I think Herring now needs to move on and go on to fight a Shakur Stevenson, a Valdez, a Bichelle, or someone, the top guys at 130. I think he needs to fight. I think he needs to fight those guys. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be easy, because I do think someone like Shakur Stevenson for me is the best out of the bunch, and I think he would beat. Herring, if I'm honest with you. Shakur Stevenson looks class to me, and even against Valdez would be a tough fight for Herring. I do think he got a guy that was moving up, and I just don't think Frampton was a 130 pounder. He was just so small. He was so small, and like I said, it was like there's weight classes for a reason, and this guy was jumping up to literally do the impossible. It was the size difference was crazy. When you looked at it in the ring, Herring was so much bigger. His reach advantage, height advantage. Honestly, you've got to be some kind of special fighter to overcome all of that to win. Frampton didn't have any success in that fight. So I think it was more of a case where they were just trying to, they were trying to climb a very, very steep mountain. And I think a lot of people were overlooking Herring because of the fact that Herring's probably not that well known. And if it was any other champion at that weight, I think nobody would have given Frampton a chance. But because Herring, the way he looked in his last fight, and the fact that they thought that he's on the verge of retiring, I think people didn't really. I think people were giving Frampton more of a chance than really, in the end, they should have given him, because really it was a really one-sided fight. And I don't think it was down to the fact that Frampton was really finished, or I know people say he's on the slide. I do think he's not the fighter he was. I think he would have given someone his own size a very good fight. I just think he was fighting a guy that was just he was overmatched. He was overmatched in the sense that the guy was so much bigger. He had a huge reach advantage, huge height advantage. It looks like a crazy matchup when you think about it now, looking at the way the fight played out. Herring was the superior boxer as well. The only way Frampton was going to win if he made it a dogfight. But I feel like Herring would have beaten him in a dogfight. Herring would have beaten him if it comes to boxing at range. Well, he would have done, because he had such physical advantages over Frampton. So really, you can't really see how Frampton was going to win that when you look back at it. But I just think they took the leap just because it was an opportunity, and they probably thought Herring was the weaker champion out of all of the other champions, and they thought it's an opportunity to become a 3-weight world champion, and it's an opportunity they couldn't turn down. However, I do think I just don't see how he was going to win that, if I'm honest. I just think Herring outmatched him. I just think Frampton had it all to do. The reach, the height was always going to be a bit too much for Frampton. But nevertheless, Carl Frampton's had a great career, one to be proud of. He's done great for Irish boxing. He's been a credit to British boxing. And I think he's had a great career. He's got a great, beat Kiko Martinez, beat Scott Quigg, beat Leo Santa Cruz. He's beat some big names in the sport. I do think that he should have fought Rigondeaux, which I think both him and Scott Quigg avoided that fight when he was more in his prime, which would have been great. And I think the reason why they avoided it, because they thought Rigo wasn't, Barry McGuigan at the time said that Rigo doesn't really bring anything to the table. He doesn't bring any money. But I just don't think I think when you look back at it, I think that is a fight that I would have loved to see him have, just because I think it would have been great viewing. And unfortunately, we didn't get it because of the fact, and Rigo didn't get a lot of fights like that because a lot of people didn't want to fight him because they viewed him as high risk, low reward. And he was one of those fighters, and unfortunately he's gone a bit under the radar, and Rigo's still fighting, and Carl Frampton's probably made a lot of money, and he's had a great career. I think he's done the right thing by walking away, because you don't want to get hurt in this sport. You know, that was a bad loss. That was a bad beating of Herring. But I don't know why people are so surprised, and they were surprised when you got a guy like Herring, who's a quality boxer, and Frampton is so much smaller. You know, it's expected. It doesn't matter whether the guy's not a big puncher. It's irrelevant if Herring's a big puncher. He's fighting a guy that's moving up. I might not be a big puncher for the guys my size, but I'm definitely going to be a big puncher for a guy that's moving up. Especially a guy that's not even big. Like, Frampton's not even a big 126 pounder. Warrington was bigger than Frampton. Warrington looked bigger, and this guy is way bigger than Warrington. He's 5'10.5". Amir Khan's a welterweight. Amir Khan was standing next to Herring, and Herring looked taller than Amir Khan. And Amir Khan's a welterweight. Herring was huge. So I honestly think it was the size difference was just too much, and I just felt when I saw the size difference in the weigh-in, I thought, no, Frampton ain't overcoming that. He ain't overcoming that. Just isn't. But anyway, congratulations to Carl Frampton on a great career. Congratulations to Herring on a great win. And what do you guys make of it? What did you guys make of the performance by Herring? Who do you think you should fight next? Do you think it was the right decision for Carl Frampton to call it a day? Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.